I'm Jolene Philo, and I'm here today with Laurie Winslow Sargent. She's the author of The Power of Parent-Child Play, and she's about to begin a new series with you. And I just am wondering today, Laurie, what are you up to? Tell us about yourself. What's going on?
Well, thank you for asking. And, let's see, how do you put your life in a nutshell real quickly here? I've been writing and speaking to parents for about 20 years. And writing is a passion of mine, and sharing tips with parents is a passion as well. And I think that a lot of what I write has been influenced by not only former work in occupational therapy, but also my kids. I have 3 children. They're pretty much grown by now. One is still in middle school, but I've learned a lot from them along the way. And a lot of what I've written about has been inspired by them.
Well, tell us a little bit more about your passion for play.
I got interested in play when my daughter was younger. I'll tell you how it started. It was a little bit of a wake-up call for me. I had been enjoying writing for many different magazines and was very enthusiastic about it because it was quite a kick. And my daughter was about, 4 years old. Well, I was becoming a little bit maybe too preoccupied with work, and when you're doing something you love, that's easy to do. And I was also trying to just cope with just being a mom, keeping the house clean and trying to pay the bills, just everything it takes, to be a mom. And I can recall very vividly one day when it was just crazy. I had a list a mile long. The kitchen counter was just covered with junk. Bills and leftover breakfast, and I had this to-do list running in my head, and my little girl came up and she was tugging on me and she kept saying, "Mom, can we play?" And I said, "Oh, honey, I'm just kind of busy right now to play." She said, "Oh, just play with me, Mommy." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I thought, well, okay, I'm going to set the timer. I'll set the oven timer. I'll work like crazy, do whatever I can for 10 minutes, and then I will stop, and I will play with you but I only have about 10 minutes to just stop and take a little break with you, kind of have a little coffee break with you, and then I'll have to get back to work. And she says, okay. So we kind of made this little date, And sure enough, that buzzer rang way too soon. I was just not even halfway through with what I was trying to accomplish. Okay, I promised. So it was sort of that I was making myself play, and I think a lot of times parents feel like that's something that they have to do. They either it doesn't come naturally, or they just are really very, very busy. So I made myself a cup of coffee, sat down on the floor with her, at which point she began to feed me plastic food. You ever eaten plastic food? Well, when you have little girls, you eat a lot of plastic food, and there's a lot of pretending revolving around serving these meals, and she was giving me these things, and I began to just kind of stop mentally going through all my lists, and I was really looking at her, because she started to explain something to me that I had never thought of before. Kind of started when she held out her palm, and she goes, here's a cookie. And I said, oh, and she says, and it's got these little sprinkles on it. And while she was talking, I'm looking at her, and all of a sudden I finally saw her. I wasn't really looking at her before. I wasn't really listening. And then I really clearly saw her. And the way she was talking, she had kind of a funny little way of stuttering every other sentence, which made me crazy sometimes, but it was just real cute, and I knew it was going to be fleeting. And I said, oh, so that's a pretend cookie. And she says, no. She says, it's imaginary. The plastic hot dog is pretend. I thought, oh, really? Okay, I didn't know the difference between pretend and imaginary. And as she began to explain this to me in great detail, I began to look at the way her little eyelashes are fluttering on her cheeks. And all of a sudden, my heart was so full of love for this child. And I just grabbed her, and I thought, oh, she's just not going to stay this age for long. And all of a sudden, the buzzer went off. All that happened in 10 minutes. What a powerful 10 minutes. just by forcing myself to stop. So that is one of the reasons that I first became interested in, especially, talking to other parents about how difficult it can be
Well,
to
no wonder
to
you're
play.
passionate about that. I can understand that. Would you tell us a little bit about the new series you're starting?
Well, in the process of exploring play a little bit more deeply, I realized that there are multiple things that get in the way of play. In that particular case, that was, time and energy limits, really. I know that there are other parents out there who struggle for other reasons, and it can be very deep. One friend told me that she had always felt very guilty and very sad when she watched other parents playing with their children, because it just didn't come naturally to her. As a child, she was not really allowed to play. She was sort of expected to be a little mini adult from the time she was very small. And she just didn't know how to play. So when she had these kids, it became a problem, because as I will explain a little bit more in detail, what play does is it allows you to draw close to your children in other ways. And then when you run into difficulties, you run into discipline problems, when kids are in crisis, you know better how to help them because you've gotten to know them through play. So it can be a tool. And one of the other barriers to play can be just personality differences. We're all made different. And it can be a joy, and it can also be very difficult at times when kids think differently. So I will be covering in the several segments of this series some of these different barriers and how to cope with those.
We look forward to hearing from you about them, Laurie. Thanks for
Thank
talking
you.
to me today.
Mm-hmm.